Good evening. We'll call to order the November 30th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Adjustments. We're going to start off first because we won't have a meeting before Christmas. I'm going to start off and ask Mr. Willie to please say a Christmas blessing.
Yes, sir. Dear God, Heavenly Father, thank you. Thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ. Dear God, thank you, dear God, for the board members, the staff, the people that's here, dear God, for the Board of Adjustment meeting. Dear God, I ask that you just cover us. Dear God, minister to our spirits. Dear God, let we take care of the business of the parish. Dear God, I'm thankful, dear God, for every family, dear God, that's represented here. Dear God, I ask that you just cover them during this holiday season, dear God, as we prepare to gather for Christmas with family and loved ones, dear God. I ask that you just cover us, dear God, and just minister to our hearts, dear God, and remember the ones that we've lost and cherish the ones that we still have here. I ask that you just bless this meeting, that we grow and learn from one another. I ask this in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Willie. Next up, we have a new member here tonight, Mr. Brian Clybert, and we're going to do an oath of office with Spencer Long.
Yes. Mr. Clybert, would you mind standing up? Mr. Clybert, do you solemnly swear to uphold the laws and the Constitution of the United States, the state of Louisiana, the parish of Ascension, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent upon you as a zoning board of adjustment member to the best of your ability and understanding?
I do.
Thank you.
All right. Well, welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard. Welcome, man.
All right, next up, we have a roll call of members. Mr. Devin Graham.
Present.
Mr. Brandon Bennett.
Present.
Mr. Jake Joe Freon.
Present.
Mr. Brian Clybert.
Present.
Mr. Willie Robinson. And tonight, Mr. Eddie Krause was not able to make it. So, next up, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the October 26, 2022 meeting. Motion by Devin Graham, second by Willie Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up, I'll entertain a motion to accept the written decisions of the October 26, 2022 meeting.
I'll make a motion that.
Motion by Jake Joe Freon,
Second. Second.
second by Brian Clybert. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. What? Oh, missed one. Number 4. Open up public comments if anybody has anything to say for or against the Board of Adjustments.
No one signed up.
No one signed up. Okay. Close the public comments. If anybody in the audience wants to speak on the matter we have before us tonight, you can walk up and see Ms. Jamaica and sign a card. And even if you are for or against it and would not like to speak, you can step up and sign a card and not speak, whichever is your preference. Okay, first up tonight we have zoning review ID PZ 3000.22 Belle Sylvain Apartments appeal. Anybody here to speak on this matter? Several people are here to speak on this matter. Let me ask you to hold up 1 second so they can sign up where they can
You just call me when you're ready for
Yeah,
me.
well, you can
I ain't going anywhere.
just hang tight a minute. I just want them to be able to hear what you're saying and not concentrating on signing their paper. All day,
You get nice and cold.
all day.
I don't really have a choice, though. This was God's plan.
I heard that.
I got one. It's either this side or this side. I fell off a trailer. Yeah, this is a sign. Okay.
All right, sir, thank you for your pause. You can go ahead and tell us what we have
Yes, sir.
going on.
Yes, sir. Good evening. My name's David Cohn. I'm an attorney from Baton Rouge. I represent the applicant in this case, the owner of the property, and the developer of the property, who are intertwined in this development to construct these apartments. First of all, let me thank each of y'all for your appearance tonight. You're away from your families. I know that you're doing your civic duty. You're here to try and do the best that you can, fulfill your purpose, and do what's right for the parish, and do what's right by your regulations and everybody else too. So we do appreciate your time in this. We'll try not to delay it too much. If you think we're dragging this thing along, you tell me, you hear? Because sometimes I get lost in the weeds a little bit. So, you can, don't worry about hurting my feelings.
Okay.
All right. This matters your zoning review ID, P2 3000.22 Bell-Savannah Apartments Appeal. This was a staff matter that was with a permit denial, and that's why we're before you. There was no zoning change that was not granted, anything like that. This was purely a permit denial on a properly zoned piece of property for the use that was intended. This property is located on the north side of Bell-Savannah Avenue, about 500 feet west of Highway 73. My client, the owner, purchased this property, paid about $1.3 million for it, with every intention of building this apartment complex on it, with the anticipation that under the current zoning guidelines, they would be able to develop this as a developer of development of right. They had the privilege to develop this property. The issue boiled down to a denial, plain and simple, based on traffic. This project, and you're going to hear from the traffic engineer, had about 31 trips at peak hours, and so it was a minimal impact here, small development. Didn't make anything worse because it was already bad enough. But that's the nature of the beast, it seems, in Ascension Parish already. They submitted their site plan and other supporting documentation probably in April of 2022. Prior to that, they had had a number of communications with the planning staff over here, and they worked cooperatively and diligently together to try and iron out what needed to be done to bring this project to bear. You'll hear that this project actually had originated in late 2020, but as a townhome development, which generated a threshold 2 traffic analysis. That threshold 2 traffic analysis is what was used in your Exhibit A of the appeal documents to deny the project. It was the August 29th letter from planning staff saying you're denied because the capacity level of Highway 73 is a level of service E as in Edward, and because we believe our policy mandates a level of service D or better, you're denied. Well, what we'll show you as we speak later on is that that is not the case. That's a misapplication of your zoning ordinance, and quite frankly, it's a misinterpretation based on past history of planning and zoning's use of their own ordinance and how they've been applying it up and down Highway 73. So the August 29th denial letter, it's short, it's sweet, it's direct. I mean, they didn't mince their words, they said it directly. I'm going to, you'll find in your package, and I'm not going to regurgitate a lot of stuff that you already have and I'm sure you've already reviewed, but there's a series of email correspondence in there that's important. And it's important for this reason. It dovetails into the analysis of how this thing came down, where once the applicant and the consulting engineers walked this thing right on into right at August 19th, based on phone calls and other information, confirmation emails. Last email from Level, Joe Labe of Level was around, I think it was August 19th. The basically said, okay, we've ironed out the only traffic issue of substance that planning even discussed with them was a right in, right out. In other words, the planning wanted the access to this property off of Highway 73. So in the site plan, it was changed to be a right in, right out from Belle Savon Avenue. So apparently the thought was if you turn off of 73 onto Belle Savon, you turn right into the development. If you want to leave the development, you got to turn right on Belle Savon Avenue. You go up, I don't know, 50 yards, and there's a, what do you call this, roundabout. You turn around and come back to the light. So that was done, ironed out. Only comment that they knew about of any substance for traffic, and that was something that got ironed out over time. Well, August 29th rolls around, the letter comes in, it's a denial based on a capacity analysis of the roadway. Not the intersections, you're going to hear a lot about that in a little bit, but the roadway. And that's when the applicant, the developer, called foul. So that's not right. You know, you're picking on us here with this, what we believe is a change in policy. A change in interpretation of a policy that's been in place since 2018. So where we're at right now, is there's a lot of stuff in this, but when you really get down to it, it gets the questions are fairly simple. Does the policy, the 2018 traffic policy, mandate any property with a level E threshold, level of service designation, mean that they're denied for whatever the project is? So if you take this decision to its logical conclusion, not only does anybody who owns land on Highway 73 who seeks to develop their property have to face an outright denial up front, because that's what they're telling us here. You got level E on that roadway, we require a level D, you're out. Forget about the intersections, it's the roadway. But you take it one step further. I don't know how many E-level roads you got in this parish. I know you got more than one, because I've been in a bunch of situations where Ascension's had a traffic problem for 20 years, and y'all are fighting to fix it, right? So, but if you have other level E roadways in this town, if this decision sticks, then that applies everywhere. Everywhere. So this little old 48 unit apartment complex, it's hurtful to my applicant. But what do you think it's going to do to these other people? And then how is staff going to manage this now with this decision when somebody walks in here with another development? Certainly it's going to be bigger than this little piddle thing. Why even go through the process? Because if this sticks, they just simply tell them, level E, we won't approve it. That's what they're telling us with this decision. That's what they're telling everybody in this parish. It may be something that the anti-development folks want to hear, but it's not what's intended by your ordinance. So when you take that step to impose a condition that really hasn't been applied anywhere else, you're now legislating. The legislature of this parish is the council. And they work through their folks and whatever. So all I can tell you is, from our point of view, everything was great up to August 19th. But in August 29th, it went south. I've got the traffic engineer here who want to have a brief presentation about the ordinance and how it's interpreted, what her experience with it is. But the other thing that we asked her to do is, you know, we didn't have much time to go digging around in this thing, but we did a very simple public records request for just what's up and down, a few of the projects up and down Highway 73. Well, the pattern that came out of it is that they were approving projects with never imposing this level E requirement. When the level E designation of Highway 73, I know it's been there since 2015 or 16, probably before that, but it's not even discussed. They're imposing on us a level 2 analysis when the code says level 1's enough, but we're not quarreling about that. In other words, they used the level 2 analysis that we had prepared in connection with the townhome development, and we were fine with that because a new one is not going to show anything different. They used it. They pulled one little piece out of it that just said, okay, you know, the roadway is a level E, so that's it. It's over.
Mr. Cone, question for you. You keep bringing up this August 19th date. When do you know when Level Homes actually purchased this piece of property?
I looked that up. Yes, sir. Level Homes bought that property from a fellow named George Valentine and his wife in July of this year.
Okay.
All right, in July of this year. Now, bear in mind that they had been working with staff since prior to the submission of the April application, and they had a very good feeling about what they were hearing.
Yeah, I understand.
When they bought this property, they thought it was done. The rest of it was just kind of mopping up, if you will, the little knickknacks of it, and this right in, right out, the other things like that. So I mean, I think you know, nobody likes to jump into a swimming pool. They don't know how deep it is. So, and I'm not here to cry over it to say, well, they got misled and they bought it. But the fact of it is, the representations that they were getting, both verbally and in their comments and everything else, gave them enough of a feeling that they would go risk nearly $1.3 million to buy this piece of property. And now it is worthless because they are told you can build nothing now because that roadway on 73 has a level E designation. It may deserve it, but that's not how it's been applied. That's not how the ordinance has been applied in this parish. And these other projects that have been approved in the last 2 years, not that way either. So, I mean, take the Starbucks. Who you think's generating more traffic? Starbucks or 48-unit apartment complex? Starbucks will generate 10 times the traffic that this will. And they'll do it at peak hours, particularly in the morning. So that's just my one little pet peeve. But Rebecca Lala, the traffic engineer, who was the traffic engineer on this and was working with staff to resolve these issues, is going to talk about the process that she went through and what she reads into the traffic ordinance. Joe Labe, who is a project manager with Level, was involved with staff, and he's going to give you a short presentation on the process that they went through to get to this point, and then just to give you the background. And then I'll have a few remarks when they finish.
Okay.
But I'm going to go ahead and call up Joe to go ahead and give you some background on the project and what they went through, and then once he's done, Rebecca will be popping up here.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cone.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'll try and be quick, concise, try and hit up on some important dates. Just to give you a little bit background of myself, I was originally a project manager with Quality Engineering and Surveying as the initial submittals and involvement. That goes back 2 years on this property and this project. Currently, project manager for Inkless Development. This project and the apartment side of things goes back a year from now. Now, the townhomes goes back even further into 2 years. So we were looking at coordination and meeting with the parish on the townhome side of things back in November 2020. December, there was a pre-app meeting of 2020. Moving into March of 2021, that was the submittal of the preliminary plat for the townhomes. And then getting into April is when we received comments and addressed those comments. And then moving into the summer, into May and June, at that point in time, we saw the results of a similar project across the street. Pulled the project from the agenda at that point in time, didn't move forward with the townhome development. As our team revisited the project and the site, we looked at it from a standpoint of, well, what currently is the property zoned for? What does it allow for? Max units of 48 units could be done as an apartment complex. Still wanting to provide the quality of the architecture, of the landscape, of the surrounding areas. But at that point in time, about a year ago in December, we revisited the idea with staff, met with staff to get their feedback before going any further. It was important to us that we wouldn't take any additional steps unless we felt warm and fuzzy, if you want to call it, from them. At that point in time, we met with them at the start of the year in January, got really good feedback. We already had a traffic study on the property. We had a drainage impact study. Some revisions here and there may need to be made, but we showed our initial site plan, got the feedback. Never at any point was there any concern. We knew at that point in time that it would be a staff level review with the fact that it was zoned properly. So moving along in the timeline through our process, February into April, getting all of our paperwork together, April submittal, still getting good feedback and good coordination with staff. As we moved into the summer, we wanted to see some review comments. We wanted to get more feedback, and we did get that. And as Mr. David mentioned, really the only hang-up traffic-wise and feedback that we got when Ms. Lala and Mr. Stephen Erker met with staff was the concerns for a right-in, right-out, like that was mentioned. At that point in time, no other issues, no other concerns were brought up. So never was there anything that was brought to our attention that was any kind of red flag that we should be of any concern of. We went in to put in a rendering of what that entrance could potentially look like. And you can see here, indicating the right in, right out, the use of landscape berms, dressing up the entrance to provide a nice entry into the apartments. There's a level of quality that we expect out of our projects that are important to us, and we want to see that through.
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
We talking about how many levels? 3, 2?
2.
2 levels?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, typically
24 on the bottom, 24 on top?
You see the setup, and I'll provide another. You'll see that the
Hold it up, we can't see that.
You'll see that the apartments are set up as a similar look as a townhome development. It's not your typical 3-story, apartment complex. Again, that kind of goes along with what I was saying as far as the look, the quality of the development. We wanted it to have that feel, so that was important. So again, kind of reiterating what Mr. David said, August rolls around and we were kind of itching to get some feedback, some approval, and that's all that came up was the right in, right out. At that point in time, that meeting took place early August. I think I sent an email kind of mid-August, that communication around the 19th. Things got real quiet for about 10 days, didn't really hear anything, didn't know why, and then of course the letter came through and it kind of blindsided us a bit. So that's kind of the general outline of where things went throughout the last 2 years. I'm happy to answer any questions. If not, I'll call Ms. Lala up.
Any questions?
Yeah, I was curious, so.
Hold
you
on,
mentioned-
hold on.
Sorry, come on. I was just curious, so it was mentioned July 2022, the land was purchased. Who owned the land prior to that? So it seemed like this has been planning for,
Mr. Valentine.
Okay. So the same person this entire process?
Up until 2022.
22? Okay,
July.
I got you. And then for your traffic plan that you had, I was just curious, I'm looking at it was the traffic impact study that was stamped on March 4th, 2021. Just from my knowledge, I'm not an expert in this stuff, and so when I was looking at your figure 4, because it was referenced in the plan a few times, I don't know if you have it in front of you.
I don't,
Chance.
but if
Might
it's
be
traffic
closer
impact
for
study
traffic.
related, I'd
Oh, I thought that was you,
like
I'm
for Ms.
sorry.
Lala to answer that.
Oh,
question.
okay, I can wait then.
His project manager.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yes, sir. It's her report.
Okay, cool, I can wait.
Is that it?
Yep.
Any other questions? No? All right, well,
Thank you, guys.
next in line.
Hey, as I said, I'm Rebecca Lala, traffic engineer for Quality Engineering Surveying. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the traffic that was done for this development.
Can you pull your mic down?
The denial letter of August.
Ma'am.
Sorry.
Mr. Lala, can you pull your mic down? Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, is that better?
That's better, yes.
Okay. The denial letter of August 29th references 2 concerns that were stated on an August 1st comment letter from the parish to Quality Engineering. The first comment was that the Threshold 1 analysis should be amended to state that a Threshold 2 study can be required if the Department of Planning and Development deems it necessary per TIA policy. The second comment was that the previously submitted Threshold 2 for the same property showed that the roadway level of service on Highway 73 was less than D, and that a meeting with the Planning Department should be held to determine what traffic improvements, if any, would be required for this building permit application. The first comment was not addressed because a Threshold 2 traffic study had already been prepared for the same property previously. Therefore, the parish was in receipt of both a Threshold 1 and Threshold 2 study for the property, as was evidenced in the second comment. The second comment was addressed by a conference call meeting held on August 1st between Planning Department personnel and QES personnel. On the phone call, the discussion revolved around modifying the entrance to a right-in, right-out only in order to address traffic concerns. It was also acknowledged that a Threshold 2 study had already been submitted previously, and if it were to be redone, the results would be the same. It was stated that the parish would discuss internally and let us know if anything further was needed for traffic. Despite this meeting that was requested by the parish being held to address all traffic requirements, the August 29th denial was based on the roadway level of service E on LA 73, which was not brought up in the August 1st meeting as an issue. Roadway level of service is not listed in the TIA policy as being required as part of a study. Roadway capacity is only discussed in the Transportation Impact Fee Ordinance. The ordinance states that the transportation impact fees were meant to charge a new development the cost of replacing the capacity that it consumes on the major roadway system. The TIA policy states that the level of service at all study intersections, inclusive of the site access locations, shall be calculated. The objective shall be to maintain or improve the existing level of service, and an overall level of service shall be considered acceptable. But that does not mean that the level of service E is prohibited under applicable TIA policy. From a traffic perspective, while intersection level of service is based on delay time for vehicles traveling through an intersection, roadway level of service is a planning tool for government agencies to determine when an increase of capacity on a roadway is warranted. They're completely different formulas. It is based on factors such as lane widths, shoulder widths, heavy vehicle percentage, number of access points, and volume of traffic in each direction along a segment of the roadway. The only factors of a new development that affect roadway level of service is the number of new vehicles traveling in each direction on the roadway during the peak hours and the number of access points along a segment of the roadway. Belle Savant Apartments will not change the number of access points on LA 73, and it will add approximately 13 additional northbound vehicles and 7 additional southbound vehicles on LA 73 during the peak hour. The analysis shows that the roadway level of service, as well as the average speed along LA 73, will remain the same, both with and without the development. The roadway level of service E on LA 73 is an existing condition and has existed for at least 5 years based on other traffic studies in the area. The existing level of service for both intersections and the roadway remains the same with the addition of Belle Savant Apartments. The project will not overburden the existing roadway system, as the addition of the traffic from the development will result in an increase of less than 2 seconds of delay for all approaches to all intersections in the study area. And in most cases, the increase is only fractions of a second. Per the TIA policy, the study showed results of possible improvements that could increase the level of service for both intersections and the roadway. There are other developments in the area that create less than 40 trips during the peak hour that have not been required to perform Threshold 2 studies, only Threshold 1. Some of those developments have been in a similar situation as us, where a prior Threshold 2 study had been performed for the same property, and the Threshold 2 showed level of service below D for intersections and/or the roadway. However, no building permits were withheld and no roadway improvements were required for those other developments. The hospital that's located on Highway 73, their traffic study in 2016 showed a level of service E, roadway level of service E on LA 73. And that's where we're getting the 5-year, it's been a level of service E on that roadway for at least 5 years. The Lucky Dog development required a Threshold 1, that was in 2021. There was a Threshold 2 on the same property that was previously performed, and it showed overall level of service E at one intersection and some level of service E and F approaches at another intersection. The roadway level of service analysis was not required in that study. Clare Court, there was a Threshold 1 required because, to quote, this Clare Court project was approved to only provide a Threshold 1 due to the low trips and because a Threshold 2 study was already done in December 2018 for the proposed Evelyn Estates project on the same property. Results from this prior Threshold 2 study were presented in the preliminary plat review summary and showed approaches at intersections under existing conditions with level of service E and F. Per TIA policy, the report showed results from possible improvements that could increase the level of service. However, no improvements were required to be implemented and the project was approved. Starbucks. A Threshold 1 study was required in 2020 because total trips were allowed to be reduced by pass-by trips. Pass-by trips means it's vehicles that are already on the roadway that are going to turn off to get their coffee and then turn back out. So they're already on the roadway, but they're going to use the services of this new development. If the pass-by trips were not subtracted, the development creates 195 and 98 trips during the AM and PM peak hours, respectively. The new school on Highway 73, there was a Threshold 2 study that was performed in September of 2018, and it showed an overall level of service F for intersections, as well as a drop of overall intersection level of service from C to E upon build-out. A roadway level service analysis was not required in the report, and no improvements were recommended or implemented aside from turn lanes at the driveway. Delona states there was a traffic study done at Threshold 2, and the roadway level service analysis was not required in this report either. So that's all I have.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Lala?
Yeah, I had some. I was asking the wrong
That's right.
person earlier. So.
Yes.
You're here now. Figure 4 in your traffic study, I just wanted to just make sure I'm understanding the numbers within this. There's no page numbers on it. It's like the first document.
Existing
First-
peak hour volumes?
Wait, say it one more time, sorry.
The figure 4 existing peak hour volumes?
Yes, ma'am, that's it. So just coming in down Belle Savon, you have the 30, and then there's a parentheses 81, and then I guess exiting, it's parentheses 74 and 80.
Correct.
Is that AM, PM? Like, I just wanted to, how's that?
Yes, so all of the numbers that are not in parentheses is AM peak, and the parentheses numbers are PM peak.
Okay. And so how does do these numbers, how are they factored into the peak hour trips?
So these are the existing, there's traffic counts that we performed out in the field. These are existing traffic counts out there now. If you go to figure 5, the next one, we actually grew the volumes by an additional 5%, just to get some background growth in there and make sure we're accounting for everything. The next figure 6, in this study actually included longleaf townhomes, which has not been approved, so these numbers are not going to be there. But this study did take into account the background trips from longleaf townhomes, as well as Phase 3 of Belle Savon, the remaining lots that have not been occupied yet. So when you finally, if you turn to Figure 9 is the one I was looking for. Figure 9 has the new site trips. These are the trips that are to be generated by the development, and these are calculated using the ITE trip generation manual, which is how we project the traffic for new developments. It's used internationally for traffic studies. So this new site trips shows you how many trips this development is going to create and which way they're going to go on the roadway system.
And again, from my knowledge, just a question, so a trip is considered a vehicle?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, and then we have, so it's a 40-town unit home or apartment complex? And then
48.
So 48, okay.
Less than 40 trip generation.
With a 40, okay. None of the math adds up to me. so that's why I
Well,
wanted
it's
to-
for a peak hour. So the trip generation manual, only you calculate for the peak hour of the day.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're going to have more than 48 trips because you have more than 48 units, but they're not all going to be using the roadway at the same exact hour of the
Okay.
day.
Nope, that makes sense. Another question I had is that, and so the first figure that you showed me, that's the trip that's for the Belle Savon subdivision? Because what I was curious is how would this trip equal into the subdivision itself? Because obviously the study that you have is focusing on this road. So is that what that first figure was?
Yes, that's existing,
Okay.
that the subdivision is currently creating on that roadway now.
Okay.
Yes.
I got you. So those combined, was that looked at with you guys? If you combine that subdivision and the townhomes together, how does that work? What
So-
would your trip then be classified? What would it be
Sorry,
considered? No.
So in this study for figure 10, the build peak hour volumes, that takes into account all of everything that I said.
Okay.
So that's the 5% increase over existing volumes, plus the Belle Savon Phase 3 homes that have not been built yet, and the longleaf townhomes, which doesn't matter anyway because they're not approved. But the build peak hour volumes takes into account all of those together.
Okay.
So that's what the analysis is, the build analysis is based on these volumes.
So it's taking into account the part that they develop in the back of Belle Savon right now?
Correct.
It's okay,
yes.
on the build out, all right. That was gonna be one of my questions.
Look at that, we're on the same page.
Any other questions for Ms. Lala?
I had more.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I can wait. I'm going to jump to another document now. Did you do this traffic impact study? I didn't understand why this document was in here, so that was really just more a question. The Office Park 73 traffic impact study?
Okay,
What was
so
the significance of that
I
being
did not
included?
do those. Those exhibits are in there for the other developments that I mentioned that
Okay.
have done traffic studies in the area and did not have to
Okay.
meet the same requirements that this did. I did not do that study, no.
No, that makes perfect sense. And so that was a question, just from a related standpoint, and then so flipping through this one, you get to figures 6 through 10, and I guess, I don't know, so I'm a health and safety professional by trade, for the record, whatever it may be. And so figures 6 through 10, then I start looking at just the crash. There's the crashes on 73, and it says 317, I guess were related to this, for this specific park.
For the Office Park 73,
Yeah,
yeah. I did not perform the study, so I can't speak to that.
Okay.
But yes, if they did a crash analysis, then yes, that would have been in 2016 when that was performed.
Yeah, okay. This is more just, I guess, my opinion with this is, this is concerning to me, just from the area of what this is, where this is at. And if you look at the numbers that you have that they provided with these charts, you see where, left-hand turns and things of that nature were a significant amount of the incidents that were in here, including right angle, which I'm not 100% sure what it is, but almost 200 incidents included in this. And so now I think this where you guys are coming out, yeah, we're threshold 1, but then now all this traffic has to get out to 73. And so just from the safety for the residents is where, again, is a concern of mine. So, but no, I appreciate y'all adding this in here. So thanks for that impact study. Cool, thank you. Thank you for the help.
Sure.
Okay. I like talking. Let's start with peak hour. Do we have a defined hour, a time frame of what you're defining as peak hour on 73?
Yes, so that is
like
done with the
4 a.m.
data
to 9?
collection that was created. We have to analyze that and get approval from DOTD on the peak hour determination. For this report, I want to say it was the AM peak hours between 7 and 8 AM. And PM peak hour was between 4:15 and 5:15. And sorry, AM peak hour was 6:30 to 7:30. So it's based on the data collection that was collected.
Okay. So, of course, by peak hour, we mean the most cars at that time frame throughout the whole time, because 73 is always pretty much being used.
Yes.
I do want to say that, I'm gonna go ahead and place a little blame on, I hate to do this part, but 73 was developed in 2002, I think, with DOTD, the current what we have, and it was underdeveloped in. I do understand that the roadway is underdeveloped now, and underdeveloped. And I think of north of the interstate and south of the interstate as two different roads anyway, because I feel like most people are using the interstate as the point to go to. So unfortunately, personally, I look at Starbucks and Delon Estates and Lucky Dog as those numbers don't mean anything.
Right.
Because I feel like on the south side of the 10 is where the hell's at right now. And
Well, that's where the study, the other traffic studies come in.
Oh, no, I
The
respect
hospital
it.
study was done north of I-10, and it showed a level service E on the roadway, north
no.
of I-10 as well.
I respect them for what they're here for. They're here for reference and all. I just want to kind of state that because 73 is a DOTD highway and problem is what I'm getting at. So the other questions are going to go, I'm actually going to bring these gentlemen in, but I'm going to let y'all finish y'all's presentations and go to public comments and all first. I just wanted to define that peak hour.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Okay, Ms. Lala, thank you.
Thank you.
We got anybody else? Mr. Cohen, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. I got a lot to say, but I'm scared if I say it, I'll wear out my welcome. So I'll just say this. In summary, if you look at the definitions of the traffic policy, that traffic policy has definitions that discuss what a level of service D is going to be. On capacity analysis, that's defined. And we're talking about capacity here. When they're talking about a level of service E on this roadway, we're talking about a capacity level E, okay? Well, the level of service capacity described in the 2018 ordinance as defined only talks about intersections. Talks about intersections. Traffic directional study talks about intersections. Other definitions talk about intersections. They don't talk about roadways. Now, if the ordinance is vague, I mean, if it's subject to being interpreted this severely, then that's one of the few times that actually operates in favor of the public, because the public who owns the land, properly zoned, has a development of right if that development conforms to existing regulations. And when a parish imposes those regulations unreasonably on that owner, then his development of right has been taken away. It's a constitutional right. They have a remedy for that. They have redress for that. That redress can be a sue to get it changed, sue to say, you took my property from me, now give me my $1.3 million, and oh, by the way, on top of that, we expected an equity position of right here, and you've deprived me of that too. So, you know, it's all that nonsense that takes place after today, if we have to go to that part, but I don't think we have to go there. I just think what we've got here is I see it as a one-off misinterpretation of the statute, because the projects that we developed, and to Mr. Graham's point, I mean, he sees everything on the other side of the interstate, you know, is probably less of an example, but we really didn't show y'all that to say, look, their impact is worse than ours. We showed it to you to say, if you take the unminced words of this denial letter that says if you have a level of service E roadway that's below a D, you don't get approved. And they got approved, and I don't care where they're at. You can take this over to 74. What is it? What's that one out there? I mean, out there by Keystone. What's that highway? That thing's a mess too, or used to be. But all these roadways that have these problems, you've got other level E's out there. It's a misinterpretation. That's not what the ordinance means. But to be clear, again, to Mr. Graham's point, we showed you this to say they've applied the ordinance one way with level E service of a roadway without even discussing it. So now, level and this property owner now have to bear this. So we think it's a discriminatory application. I'm not saying they're being mean or ugly right now. I'm just saying I don't know what happened between the 19th of August to the 29th, but something turned. I don't know what it is, but it went way off the rails, and you know, and I don't know that the answer to that question is really pertinent here. It may be pertinent later, but not here. What's pertinent here is, what does the statute mean? What does the ordinance mean? How's it been interpreted in the past? Constitutional law says that ordinance has to be applied uniformly and fairly. You can't just go pick the ones you like and the ones you don't like. I've had this debate before the council, before the planning commission, in court, down here in Ascension for the last 30 years. I mean, it's like saying, okay, you know, we're going to apply a different set of rules in Donaldsonville than we're going to apply here. Well, no, you can't do that. You don't do that. Everybody lives by the same thing. So, where we stand, we believe the ordinance is clear enough. It's defining capacity. It points in the level 2 analysis to intersectional analysis, all of our intersections are level D or better overall. We met code. This project should have been approved, not denied, based on a level of service E that just came out of left field for that roadway. And thank you
Mr.
for your
Cohen,
time.
We're going to give you a rebuttal after public comment and all, but before, see if any members have any questions for you right now.
Yeah, I did have a question.
Yes, sir.
So I was just curious, so when I look at the traffic impact policy that the parish has, within the threshold 1, so your traffic impact analysis threshold levels, and then, so it states everything that you guys have mentioned, threshold 1, threshold 2, threshold 3. But then at the bottom of that, I was just curious as how there's a statement in here in a paragraph that mentions at the discretion of DPD or their designee, other items which significantly influence the traffic movements of safety may require a higher level of study. These include, but are not limited to, the following: high accident areas, areas currently experiencing excessive traffic congestion, areas currently undergoing substantial growth and high volumes. There's a few other ones, but those are like the 4 that I kind of highlighted because I thought that one really pertains to here. So, Mr. David, Mr. David, this was more for you guys, is how is that specific section within the policy, how is that factored into the decision by the parish?
Are you referring to the bottom of page 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I'm sorry. Yeah, page 3, right, traffic impact analysis is right there at the bottom.
Okay.
I was just curious. That was, I guess,
If the question was directed at staff,
But yeah,
then-
who are you directing the question to?
both, actually, both. Because how
Oh.
did you guys know, were you guys aware of this? And then how was that factored into y'all's decision to where we are today?
Yeah. Mr. Bennett, yeah, I'll start off by addressing that, and that the traffic study policy does give staff some latitude in terms of requesting more information and a higher degree of analysis, for particular projects, right? So that was considered.
Yeah, and he's right about that. And if you, in the first sentence of where you just read from, kind of answers the question. The peak hour trips are not the only threshold factor in deciding the analysis that would be required. Well, that's how we got pushed. That's how code or the traffic policy says, look, all you got to have is a level 1. For under 40, we got 31 peak hour trips. Level 1 does the trick. We even gave them a level 1 just because it checked the box. But the level 2 analysis, which they already had, was the one being relied on, theoretically, in this case, and it was the one through which we were denied, based on that statement that this roadway. So I think what this means is they could have taken this sentence and said, okay, you gave us a level 1. Now we want a level 2 because that's a higher standard. But because we already had it, and everybody, and I think staff would agree with Joe Labe, that they accepted that as having it, and these guys are experienced enough to know if we go and get a brand new one, it's not going to say much different. In fact, it's probably going to be less trips because you take out the project that got canceled across the street. Okay. And so I can't remember, Long Farms or something like that. But staff has the ability to ask for more information, and when they asked, it's provided. And as they asked in this project, they were provided, whatever they asked for. And the end result was, when it was all over, the only substantive change of any significance, other than paper changes in the report that they were asking for that were already covered in the level 2, was to do a right-in, right-out on that driveway. And that's what we did. And there's all this other stuff about, you have to have a scoping meeting, and that's when it's articulated what the factors are going to be. There has to be, those are sort of hard in line, but this thing kind of just evolved over time, and before it finally gelled up, and then that's where it went. But I will tell you this, in none of the meetings was it ever said, because you have a level E roadway on Highway 73, this project is dead meat. That never came up.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Cohen? Jake?
I got one, this is for staff.
Hold on. Turn you
I
on.
think he's on there.
All right.
Have we denied any other development on Highway 73 with that level D or E previously? For any reason?
No, sir.
Thank y'all.
Okay, Mr. Cohen, thank you.
Not the zoning.
All right, what do I do? I go staff next or public comment? Huh?
Yeah, public.
Okay, well, now we'll open it up for public comment. Ms. Jamaica?
Yes, I have Julia Jelenko, and she would like to speak.
Okay, Ms. Julia, you step up to the mic and you'll have 3 minutes to.
It's Julie, by the way.
Julie, okay.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. So, I'll tell you, I've listened to this about what they thought was going to happen because they talked to staff and they thought they had everything together. They've been trying for years to get this developed, have not been able to get it approved because of the problems on 73 coming in and out of that subdivision. Can you imagine if they put a Starbucks there or a Starbucks on the corner of your neighborhood or a Taco Bell, and all of that traffic was diverted into your residential neighborhood? I mean, it's a commercial development. I don't care what it is. And, you know, the safety not only for the traffic going out on 73, but the children riding and walking their bikes along Belle Savanne to get to 73 to go to school. You know that part of 73. Everything that they showed you was on the other side. It is a nightmare day and night. So I don't know what time they did their study, but I can tell you with an extra 100 homes in phase 3 coming, with another 100, 200, 300 more cars going in and out of Belle Savanne with no light, no safety, everybody turns left. You have to turn into that middle lane or try to make it all the way across. I mean, it's a death trap. And so trying to put something else there. When it rained really bad last year, we had 3 feet of water in that roundabout. But there were cars floating in the front of it. I talked to Jerome about infrastructure, flooding. It's a grass area right now. They had already started tearing up that land in July before they ever got a permit. You know, they were so sure they were going to get it through. They had to stop because they got denied. Left all that stuff there. It was a mess for a couple of months. But the traffic is the worst. Until they do something about 73, I don't know how we can sustain even one more car in and out of there. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Julie.
you.
Terry Strom, and they would like to speak.
Good evening.
I am neither an attorney nor an engineer. I don't know the world that you folks live in. More power to you. What I do know is that anyone who thinks if this development proceeds that it's going to be a right in and a right out needs someone other than an attorney or an engineer. When they get ready to come out of this development, if it is approved, they're going to take the same path that they took in, they're going to take that same path across, and they're going to make a left on Belle Savanne to get back out to 73. There might be a right in, but there will not be a right out. I don't care what the studies tell you, that is not going to happen. Belle Savanne is a 2-lane street that is too narrow for the traffic that is on it now. You add phase 3, you add these apartments, and you're adding a recipe for accidents and potentially even deaths because of a child that could potentially be hit or run over. They did begin clearing before they thought they were going to get their approval for this project. They have known that they were going to do this project. When I purchased the lot for my home in early 2 years ago, I was told that there would be a development there, but nobody knew what kind. So Level had an idea that they were going to be developing that project. And if you think they got blindsided in one of their meetings when whatever study came back, imagine the homeowners in Belle-Savon, Dutchtown, and how we felt when we were told that there were going to be apartments, townhomes, apartments, townhomes. I managed 31 pieces of rental property for a number of years. And if you think that anything that is rented is going to be maintained by the occupants, you are sadly mistaken. So whatever the value of that development, if it is approved, begins at, over the course of a few years, the value will decrease. Consequentially, the value of the homes in Belle-Savon, Dutchtown will decrease as well. All of the studies that were cited are on the opposite side of the interstate.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes up.
I got Mr. Chris Markerson Jr.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
My name's Chris Markerson. Me and my wife purchased our home. We signed a contract in January of 2020. None of this was mentioned to us about townhomes or an apartment complex. We would have looked elsewhere first and foremost, but that's beside the point. A couple things I just wanted to point out that they kind of mentioned here. We have 198 existing homes, by my understanding, in Phase 1 and 2. 100 homes are going to be added in Phase 3. Is what I'm being told. I don't know how 5% extra traffic, how that equates. You know, if you take in 100 new homes by the 198 that are still there, it's like a 49% increase in the amount of homes that are in that neighborhood. The second thing that I kind of picked out from their presentation here was peak hours, especially in the afternoon, 4:15 to 5:15. It's not really peak hours based off of what I've experienced living in that for the last 2 years. I mean, just on the way over here for this meeting at 5:30, traffic was backed up from 73 almost to Cornerview. 1.7 miles is what I tagged it on the odometer on the way over here today, bumper to bumper. Now, if you try to get out of Belle-Savon, which just about everybody does, going left to the interstate, you have to dodge traffic because it's coming from both ways in the morning. Plant workers trying to get there. So you have to shoot across, get in the middle lane, and hope you don't get hit. And especially if school's letting in and out, that's just a whole nother, addition to that. So I was just kind of curious as to how, they came up with some of these numbers when it seems like the math just, like you said, doesn't add up when we're talking about the traffic study that was done. It was done in what, I think they said March of 21. And from my understanding, I didn't even see the last house in Phase 2 completed by then. So how do we know that that data is accurate? Especially if we're adding in 100 more homes and then 48 on top of that. And I say even the next thing, the left-hand turn or the right in, right out, that's not going to happen. All that traffic is going to either try and cut that curb, which will have to be replaced, or if they do go to that roundabout at the right, there's tons of kids. Our community pool is right there. There's kids crossing that intersection all the time. And if we add even another development to dump into our existing development that's already got approved houses that have yet to be built, I worry for the safety of the neighborhood and the property values that we're going to have, because traffic's just going to be even worse than it already is today. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And we have Mary Borderline. She's not in support, but does not wish to speak. Jason Borderline is not in support, and he does not wish to speak. And Brad Owens, he's not in support, and he doesn't wish to speak. And that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Jamaica. Okay, we'll close the public comment. Mr. Cohen, hold on. I think we're gonna have some conversations with them for a little while. hear from their side. Mr. Jerome, I'm sure you or Mr. Eric or someone have some input?
We're here to answer any questions that you might have, you know. Right, yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'm just here to put stuff on the record. I read this booklet. It's pretty good. If y'all don't, just let the public know, it's pretty thick over here. I see highlights all up and down, so we actually read this. We're not just goofing off up here. So we'll start with why did y'all deny it? What was, besides traffic, do y'all have a specific reason for traffic? Is it just numbers, crashes, or the overall?
The project was denied based on what was written in the letter based on traffic.
Based on traffic, okay. Oh, Lance, this is just, again, for the record, I already know these things, but it is zoned MU, right? So this project is allowed apartments, condos?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's a permitted use in MU, mixed use.
The not connecting to the 73 and putting it on Belle Savon, would that change anything? If y'all were to move towards an entrance to 73, would that change y'all's, Jerome, we'll go back to you, I'm sorry. Would that change your opinion?
If the entrance were actually onto 73
Yes, sir.
instead of through Belle Savane Boulevard,
Yes, sir. Would that change your opinion?
it would still generate the same amount of traffic
Yes, sir.
regardless, right?
Okay.
The configuration of the interchange, though, and having a driveway onto 73 would obviously change the configuration of the development.
And I think would be more dangerous for anybody turning onto Belle Savane, having that closeness, because that's a problem we see all over the parish. If we were to move forward, so first of all, we're acting as appeals board to the administration right now. Would that be the best way to define our
That's correct.
action tonight?
Yes.
And-
Just for the record, that any plan that goes before the planning commission
Yes, sir.
that requires a public hearing, and they're denied, they're appealed to the parish appeals board, which is the parish council acting as the appeals board. On administrative levels, like this is, the appeal is brought to the Board of Adjustments, and that's why we're here tonight.
Yes, sir. And that was going to be my next thing, again, just putting for the record. The reason it's an administrative and not a planning is because it's not creating lots. It's using one lot to create a development, correct?
Yes, subdivisions typically go to the planning commission. Developments, like we're seeing now, and would go to the administration, by use by right, as Mr. Cohn had mentioned
Yes, sir.
earlier, right?
So to tap on to like uses, if this was a, God forbid, I don't want to drop names, but this was a national chain restaurant, would y'all approve that? Like if this was a yada yada, because I would think they would make more trips in and out if this was a large-scale national chain restaurant, which could be built on this property, correct? Would y'all be in favor or deny that?
It's zoned properly for those type of
Yes, sir.
uses. That's
Okay.
correct, yeah.
I'm just kind of using it as a comparison. The 73 part was probably my biggest question. I'll also question the right in, right out. I don't live in the subdivision, but I do remember when it was being developed. I remember the whole dividing it all the way down, the traffic circles, and the idea that one day it might touch Bluff Road, which isn't coming to par. But why are we doing the right in, right out? Why would we want more cars to go to the traffic circle to turn around to go back to 73? Is the road divided right there in front of this development?
It is, and that was one of the reasons that we wanted them to go to the traffic circle. We didn't want them crossing the boulevard at that point in time. There's a median strip there,
Yes, sir.
and that was one of the things we tried to avoid.
But I'm saying, so why not, and forgive me, but why not let them cross that median? I do agree with not driving them to the traffic circle. I love traffic circles because I do understand why we would do that. But having the amenity of the swimming pool there and the cluster of summer use of that area, additional numbers of kids, I say students, but kids being in the area, would it be, I just personally think it'd be better to allow people to turn left, because they're not going to be using that pool in this development. They have their own pool and all, so. But, I'm sorry.
Public comment is closed,
Sorry.
man. Public comment is closed.
But I'm just trying to do stuff for the record, so. The only other thing I guess I would have is, if we were to move forward with this tonight, Are they limited to exactly what's on this plan? Can something be altered, including that design where it's I would call that a story and a half? I wouldn't call it I mean, it's just they're basically individual townhomes, but identified as something else.
No, generally speaking, they're appealing the project that was put before us, okay? So I could ask Mr. Long for legal opinion as to any modifications that can be made, but my understanding is that they're appealing the actual project that was put before us.
And that is correct.
So in other words, they couldn't, basically, they wouldn't be able to alter, add, or anything like that. Okay, I like that. Traffic counts, I think I already talked about 73 in my opinion. I went to Dutchtown High School when it was opened. I got in a wreck on 73 because Burger King was delicious that day. This idea is unfortunate. I remember Longleaf Townhomes. I was an additional 100 homes. I know Bell Savannah's building another 100 homes in the back. Is it in your opinion that this extra 48 is, I'm sorry, that this development is a good way to say that nothing else should be built on 73? If this property was to be sold by the current landowner and they wanted to build a strip mall there, would it be denied as well, in your opinion? Of course, you can't answer that because it's a hypothetical, but I'm just saying, I do feel like it's taking this property out of value. I won't call it worthless, though, Mr. Khan. I don't believe any property is worthless, but I do respect the value of the property. The fact that the person picked the property that's zoned correctly for it, and they moved forward to pull the trigger on buying it. So, the only other thing I had would go back to the gentleman across the room, and it's that front. I don't know who wants to answer this, but the front part where Mr. Valentine's driveway and the house and all used to be at, what will it be? Will y'all sell it? Are y'all creating an extra lot? What the property is touching the corner of, or touching 73 and Bell Savannah, would that become something else, or would that just be considered green space?
We don't have any ownership or say in that
Okay.
piece of property, so.
So y'all don't actually own the property to Highway 73?
That fronts Highway 73, that corner piece?
Yes, sir. Y'all don't own that?
That's correct. We do not own it.
Okay. So your only connection is Bell Savannah to a public right of way, right?
Yes, sir.
That's it for you, Devin? Any other questions, comments?
I've asked my questions.
I like to speak.
Okay, Mr.
Before I
Willett.
abstain my vote, I've heard everything tonight. I've heard the public speak. I'm sensitive to the public. I'm a real estate broker here in the community. I've sold homes in Bell Savannah. My heart is being consistent, consistency and being fair. And based off of what I've read and what's been said along Highway 73, the consistency for the other developments compared to this one is not the same. And it's not fair. So when you say how you conduct business and move forward, I always believe in treating people fair. And even with the development, so Bell Savannah is a new development. So there's new people coming into the community. So we basically saying if we deny this development, we basically saying that people that want to come to our community, y'all can't come. To me, I don't think that's fair. I'm not from here, so it's basically saying if I wanted to move here, move into this development, I couldn't come because it's being denied. So, like I say, I'm a stickler on being consistent and being fair. And what the paperwork shows that the consistency along 73 is to stay consistent would be to approve this development if we stay consistent. And with that being said, I'd like to abstain from my vote. There might be a conflict.
Okay. Thank you, Willie. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments, motions?
I'll go back to some more then.
Okay.
This is just for the record stuff. I didn't see a design of the interior units, gentlemen. Mr. Labadie, or Labbe, I forgot how to say your name. Are these going to be 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-bed, 1-bath? What kind of?
Three bedroom, yeah.
3-bedroom units? Okay. That's why, and I guess the reason I asked that is I was trying to figure out how many cars, in my opinion, outside of a study, that I've seen because I work in the real estate business as well, and I want to see what kind of cars I would see going there. We're not talking like 3 cars per unit. That wouldn't be imaginable, I don't think, because as people in the neighboring subdivision would say that even their kids, they got 3 cars per 1 unit. So, but in these homes are probably square footage wise, you think 1,100 square feet or?
I can bring up.
Just an idea. I don't have to, it doesn't have to be
Plans
factual.
to give you an idea.
I'm just thinking about what
Square-
size they would be.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah.
1,250, okay.
1,200 to 1,500?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it said 1,250, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Oh, I got so much stuff highlighted, I guess I kind of lost control of what I was looking at. But I don't think you can build anything on 73 to improve 73. That's my opinion, until DOTD coughs up some money and gets a actual project developed for 73, we're basically putting Ascension Parish out of business if we don't move forward. I don't use that word often, but I would very much dislike seeing a national chain restaurant, a strip mall, or any other things that are allowed in MU. That's the thing that I think I feel like I'm addressing the public in the back, and I apologize for doing that, but that's the thing that really should be considered. It's unfortunate that it's zoned that way. I think that would have been much better if it was zoned RM, but that's not the place. That's not what's happening right now. That's not what these people bought the property as. So my thoughts are always, we've had these conversations on other subject matters. This is probably one of the better things that is allowed to go there, in my opinion. So, and the other thing I will say is that we don't ever look at one example that we've done somewhere else and apply it to this one. When we deal with the difficult ones, I don't go pull something out of Burnside and bring it to Prairieville and vice versa. We have to look at it as an individual case every time. I'm not ready to make a motion because I feel like some other
Well,
people need
Devin,
to speak.
you were saying that about the traffic, making traffic better on 73. There is some progress that the parish is trying to make to lessen the traffic. One of them's being the high school in Prairieville, which would take a whole lot of students from Dutchtown, 200 from Dutchtown, and send them the other way, up 73, but north of the interstate, and also the back entrance to the Dutchtown parking lot, which will probably carry another 150 or so off of there. And also the rerouting of 621 at the intersection of 73. So, I mean, you said that about DOT, but the parish is working to try and lessen, to
Yes,
make movement better on 73.
Let me just say it, like DOTD versus the Ascension Parish School Board, two different things. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
I think it needs to
There are
be
projects that
brought
are
to
being
the,
moved forward to move traffic. I agree with
yeah,
that.
it needs to be brought to the public's attention, like you say on the record, that the parish is working to
Yeah.
try and move traffic down there.
There's
Whether
no
it
doubt
works or
about
not,
that.
I don't know, but they're
And-
making efforts.
And forgive me, I'm gonna go ahead and, Belle Savan, actually, I'll have somebody correct me if I'm wrong, was originally pitched to the Parish of Ascension as a connection to Bluff Road. And if you want to talk about car counts, imagine if that actually occurred. I don't know who stopped or prevented that measure from occurring, but you would have a hell of a lot more cars cutting through your subdivision and more dangerous, in my opinion. And I don't like subdivisions that don't have 2 points of connection. But anyway, I don't want to argue with people, I'm sorry. I just wanted to kind of, I'm saying DOTD is not putting any money. The Parish of Ascension is working for the public for a positive, believe it or not.
Yep.
I just got another question for Mr. Lance. Do you know of any further deals they're doing there with DOT to 4-lane that area, to widen that area within the next year or 2 or 3?
I'm not aware of anything. I don't know if anyone else.
They don't
plan on doing it.
I'm not planning on it. That's all I really had.
Any other questions? Mr. Cohen, you want to give your last rebuttal?
Put me in, Coach. I'll be very, very brief.
Okay, thank you.
First of all, just to reinforce what Rebecca said, the DOTD gives the peak times that she has to follow. She didn't make these up. I hear it all the time. Sometimes I question them myself. I don't know where the DOTD gets them, but they give them to us. Lance and his crew, they have to follow the same rules that the traffic report folks follow, and they have to live with it too. These guys did clear some land out there. They got permission from the parish to go do it while they were in the permitting process, only to land clear, not to construct, anything like that. My folks just got a little antsy and they wanted to go do it, and the parish said, okay, but no more. That's it. You're not doing any more. There was discussion about the homes coming on phase 3, whatever. Rebecca told y'all that her peak time, 31 cars, includes everything out there now that's fully occupied. And on top of that, it includes the Longleaf development that was turned down. I think that's pretty much all I have right now in response to what I heard. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Questions, comments, discussions, motion?
Mr. Long, I don't know if I'm on. In what form would we need to make this motion? It's not an accept or deny, it would be to
It would be
deny
either
the
a motion
parishes?
to grant the development permit or a motion to
deny.
deny.
Okay. This would be your first of this, as
Yeah.
this group, so.
So I'll go ahead and start. I'm a lifelong resident of this parish. I believe in growth. I do truly believe in smart growth. I've made a lot of notes as we're sitting here. I think that there is a level of accountability when it comes down to the growth, and it's not on you guys, it's not on us. Gentlemen, I think there's a lot of responsibility that is on your shoulders, and that's why you do the jobs that you do. There's responsibility on the state. There's also responsibility on DOTD. I think the planning in this parish can be better. I travel Highway 73 very frequently. The traffic is terrible, and that's for the record, and if anybody wants to talk about it, I'd be more than happy to talk about it. So I think we have to continue to be smart with what we're doing in this parish. I volunteered to be a part of this board about 7 years ago. With that, to be a voice for the community and to look at things like this. And this is, like Devin said, this is the first time we've had a process of going through this, so it's very new to the people on the board. Brian, welcome to your first meeting. So with that, I will make a motion to deny the permit for the appeal.
Okay, we got a motion to deny the permit for the appeal.
Did I say that right?
I don't know.
It was clear enough.
Okay.
So
Second.
we're looking for a second. I can't second it. Huh? No second?
I don't want to set the precedent of doing that in our parish.
So
I
you,
don't believe-
basically,
So
you
the
did
motion-
not, you
Yeah,
ruling in
motion-
favor of them? You're
No, I'm
ruling against it?
move to deny the appeal. I mean, to deny the plan. If we accept the appeal, then they would move forward. So I'm denying the appeal. Correct. I'm saying
You
this- Deny.
either motion to deny the development permit or to approve the development
I'm
permit and
sorry,
let them move
motion to
forward.
deny the development permit. Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. Looks like the motion fails for lack of a second.
I'll make a motion to grant it, and let me tell you why. Because it is zoned correctly, and I know that means very little to people, in the real estate business and development business in the parish of Ascension. We depend on these things, these ordinances, these zonings. I mean, this is what we base everything, every decision we make. I do know the traffic on 73. I do understand the cause of it. And believe me, since I've been in this parish since I was 6 years old and it was full of cow pastures. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I love every development that comes forward, but I do understand the ideas of growth and smart growth. I would rather see this than another type of development. Please don't talk.
Ma'am,
you're out.
one more time, and I'm
So
gonna have the
I will
officer
grant-
take you out.
I will make a motion to grant the permit. And I'm going to go ahead and ask for a
Motion
second.
by Devin Graham. Second.
That's on you guys. It's pretty simple.
We gotta have a motion. We gotta make a decision.
I'm gonna make a motion in a second, and I'll explain why. I've been a lifelong member of that area in this parish for a long time, whole life, and I agree with the public. It's a dangerous area. So I really feel what you're saying back there. I really do, but to put the precedent to say that we're not going to allow people to take their own property and do what they want with in this parish, as long as they abide by the rules. You almost cannot set that precedent, even though there are serious safety concerns, which I totally agree with you on that. So I wish the staff and maybe the developers can figure out how to make that a little better for these residents. I really wish that could happen. But I do understand your concerns on the safety.
Okay, we got a motion by Devin, a second by Jake. All in favor? Which would be Brian.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And we have one abstaining and one absence. So motion passes. The next up on the agenda is, let's see, old business. We have any old business?
No, sir.
And next would be new business, and that would be, they are wanting us to commit to attending the December 2028 meeting, which is 3 days after Christmas, so Brian will not be able to make it.
I won't be able to make it either.
Brandon won't be able to make it.
I'll be here.
Willie will be here.
I have a medical issue. I won't be able to make it.
Okay, so I don't think we will have a quorum.
I can be here.
It'd be me, Eddie, and Willie. That won't be a quorum. No. Well, that's right, huh, Lance?
All right, so who can make it?
Gentlemen, we do have some items for the agenda in December. So we need we can't just skip the meeting and move to January. So it'd either be that week, or we'd have to squeeze it in sometime the first week of January and have 2 meetings in January.
Yeah, I'm fine. I can't make it that week. I'll be out of town. So-
I just wanted to
Yeah.
let y'all know that we do have agenda items for December.
Could we move it? Could we move it up? What would stop us from moving it up?
When do we have to know for public notice reasons?
Yeah.
Do you know that answer to that question, Lance?
No, Jamaica wouldn't know that answer.
Okay.
Checking the calendar.
Okay.
We move it to the 21st.
That was a drill.
Can we do it?
Oh, yeah. I just want to make sure.
Well, we have what's tomorrow? Okay.
So if I send it,
Tomorrow.
no, we don't. Because we're here. We won't have enough time.
I'm sorry?
We have to have 3 weeks. No. Well, I guess that would be me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lance,
Yes.
if we send out the notice tomorrow, 3 weeks would be the
22nd.
the 22nd.
If we do it.
Could we do it on a Friday?
Because technically it's published, it's just the day
If
after.
they can make it on the Friday, I mean, that's the start of, that's a Friday.
Brandon, are you out that whole week
The week,
of the 26th?
no, I'll actually be back that Thursday.
Can we move it to the 20, what's that date?
The Friday, the 23rd.
No, the next week, the 20, you could be back on the 29th?
I'll be back Friday. Yeah, I can make the Friday. If we do it that Friday, I can make that Friday.
Mr. Chairman,
30th then.
Yes.
we're going to have to check with the clerk of court
Yeah, we have
before
to-
we can set the meeting, because
true. We gotta-
making sure that the room's available at that time, right?
Okay.
Because we share this room with the clerk, and they use it for jury selection and everything else. All right, so-
Okay, so how about, Ms. Jamaica, you and I can get together tomorrow and I can text these guys
Okay.
and we can come up
And I'll
with a
get with
date?
the clerk of courts and see
Yeah.
what
Okay.
they have available.
We do need a,
By the
time is
way,
of
the
the essence on
23rd
that,
is a
because we have to
parish
publish it
holiday.
tomorrow.
Wait, hold on. Yeah, we're both talking.
I'm sorry.
Jerome, I take precedent, I'm first.
Go ahead.
No, because it would have to be published tomorrow to meet any of the deadlines. So just a heads up on that.
Okay, well,
I'ma shut up, I'm
I'll get
done.
with Jamaica tomorrow morning, if you're available. Okay, Mr. Jerome, what were you saying?
I was going to say the 23rd is a parish holiday, all right? So if you're looking at that as a possible date.
Okay,
we-
let's make note of that, Ms. Jamaica.
22nd's a Devon holiday. so-
I'm 18.
Tequila bottle?
Proclamation.
Okay, all right, next on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion.
Motion by Brandon Bennett, second by Willie Robinson, I believe. Yep, all in favor? Meeting adjourned.